Good evening, everyone. I would like to call our regular board meeting to order at 7:30. We are located in the municipal building, 2350 South 25th Avenue. Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham is absent. Trustee Chamalave.
Here.
Trustee Senior.
Here.
Mayor Thompson.
Here.
Trustee Shelby.
Here.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller. Absent. Mayor, you do have a quorum. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we all, you know what? Before we do that, let me read the Pledge of Civility. In the interest of civility, I pledge to promote civility by listening, being respectful to others, acknowledging that we are all striving to support and improve our community, and understand that we each may have different ideas for achieving that objective. Now, maybe we please have a moment of silence. Thank you. Next is item 2, public comments. Please listen for your name and then come up to the podium and speak clearly into the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I know we had gotten some emails for public comment. Can you read that one for the record?
I sure will. So this is a bit lengthy. Bear with me, please. Dated August 4th from Jennifer Murtaugh, 2901 South 12th Avenue. Hello, Madam Mayor and Village Board members. I am unable to attend this meeting today, and I thank you for hearing my statement. I'd like to start by saying that I was bit in the face by a dog as a kid. I have a healthy respect and fear of dogs. I also find loud, aggressive barking to be very disturbing and frightening. A couple moved into the house across the street from me a few years ago in the spring of 2023. They got a puppy, and a beware of dog sign appeared in the window. They then got another puppy. On several occasions, I noticed one of the dogs outside the fence. I called the non-emergency number, and the responding officer found that they had chained one of the dogs outside the front door. The dogs are pit bulls and are not trained or socialized to people or other dogs. The owners rarely walk them or play with them. They let them out of the yard for hours when they are home, even if the weather is very hot and humid. The dogs don't have toys or anything to do. So they bark at people and other dogs walking by. The owners don't come out to see what they are barking about and tell them to be quiet. They just let them bark. The barking is intimidating, and people will often walk into the street or across the street to avoid the dogs. The dogs are in a chain link fence that is not very high. One of the dogs often jumps up and stands up with his paws on it. For the sake of people and other dogs in the neighborhood, I hope that there is no chance that the dogs could jump over the fence. A small dog escaped its owner a few months ago and ran over to the fence. They were very aggressive towards it, and I was glad the little dog was on the outside of the fence. The barking disrupts my work. I'm self-employed and work from home. My office window faces the house across the street. The dogs stand at the fence right across from my office, and I can hear their barking clearly in my office, living room, and bedroom. To escape the barking, I've gone to coffee shops, the library, and a friend's house. I've also worked in my dining room, but these places don't have the proper setup for my computer, and my back and neck have been hurting. The barking makes it hard for me to focus and concentrate, and it causes me a lot of stress and anxiety. I've also been avoiding the rooms in the front of my house when the dogs are out. The dogs also bark at people who come to my home. They find it to be disruptive, scary, and annoying. Several of my neighbors have also mentioned it. The dogs bark at me when I'm working in the front yard and sometimes when I'm behind my own fence. I really don't want to go out to work in my yard if the dogs are out. I often feel trapped in my home. I purchased an ultrasonic anti-dog barking device to try to train them to stop barking, but that didn't work. My concerns are number one, the disruptive barking and how it impacts my work and the neighborhood. Number two, the safety of people and other dogs in the neighborhood. And number three, the welfare of the dogs themselves. I've spoken to Mayor Thompson, who is looking into the situation. I'd like the board and other village officials to be aware of the situation. I'd appreciate any assistance you can provide. Thank you for listening to my statement and for your consideration for this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Princess Dempsey?
Good evening, board and trustees.
Good evening.
Alrighty. I would like to start off by saying I looked over the agenda, and the new item on the resolution authorizing adopting expenditures related to the village president, Katrina Thompson, attending a California conference associated with the school board and education. My point is with this one is that the mayor does not sit on the school board, so why are we paying for the mayor to attend a school board conference when we have elected officials on the school board? And the California, because I was a former board president of LINDOP, California is not in our district. We have Illinois School Board Association. So I'm just wondering, why is this on the agenda for the village to be paying for a school board trip that the village president had attended? It should not be doing that. We should not allow that money to go there. Secondly, on the resolution, they have a resolution for a certain advisory, a referendum to be put on the ballot to create a motorcycle unit for the police department. Now, my question with that is, if it was a motorcycle unit that they wanted, why wasn't it put in the budget? Number two, what's the expense of it and what's the cost of it? Because that's not what we're asking. And how many people will be, how many police will be riding the motorcycle? Are we going to be asking for horse and ponies next? So I'm just curious on that. The second one is a resolution for a certain advisory referendum question regarding whether the Village of Broadview should adopt a certain environmental policy to help limit climate change. Also saying that it will possibly do a tax increase for the village. However, we sat at the Democratic Party meeting this week, and we talked about expenses. We don't need any more taxes, residents, but this is on here to be voted for November. And then the last one, but not least, they talked about electric cars. Was there a survey given out of, because they want to put a unit and also put this on the ballot, was there a survey given out of how many electric cars do we have in the village? Is that a necessary need that we need? I know we have things for the electric car. I mean, do we have a unit for it? Where would it be put in at? Would it be in, I see a commercial space, where at in a commercial space? How much room would it take? So I just have these questions, and I know that it would be answered probably at the end of the board meeting, but I really think that as far as expenditures being spent, they talk about Dalton, but we're not looking as good as Dalton as well. Because we're spending, you go on a trip, because you've already been on a trip. The president was already on the trip, so now why are we paying for a trip that she already has attended? You know what I'm saying? She asked for 3 minutes, but when she goes to 209, she wants 5 minutes. So if we're going to respect that meeting, you got to respect this meeting too, right? So when you go to 209, you ask for 5. So I should ask for 5. I'm just saying, again, we should not be spending extra money on somebody else's trip. They had already took the trip. She suspended. It's personal. It's not business because, like I said, LINDOP is not in that district.
Thank you, Ms. Dempsey. Ms. Carol Orzon? Carol? Okay, Ms. Oreen Smith?
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to address you today. Before delving into my concern, I'd like to briefly introduce myself. I'm a lifelong resident of Broadview, having been born here in the late 80s and raised at 2121 South 18th. As a child, I participated in Broadview summer camp programs at Stroder and Pioneer Park, played softball with the Broadview Mariners, and was an active member of Broadview Missionary Baptist Church choir under Pastor Clarence Hopkins. I graduated from Roosevelt Elementary and frequented located establishments such as Camo's for Pizza and Kim's Beauty Supply Store at the corner of 17th and Roosevelt. Although my family moved from Broadview in the early 2000s, I returned as an adult to contribute my skills and enthusiasm to our community. My long history with Broadview underscores my commitment to its growth and improvement. I'm here today to address the specific concern regarding the new parking structure along Roosevelt Road. I fully support the vision Broadview has for the area, but would like to raise some issues related to the new parking regulation, particularly their impact on business owners, lessees, and employees. I have reviewed the recent communication about the new parking fees and have the following concerns. The maximum parking duration of 4 hours. What options are available for those who need to work longer? The hourly rate of $1. This fee structure poses a challenge for those of us who are on site for extended periods. To address these issues, I propose the implementation of a monthly parking permit for business owners, lessees, and employees. I suggest the permits be made available to every business owner who registers for a business license with Broadview. Additionally, I recommend installing flashing lights and crosswalk strips at the intersection of Roosevelt and 18th to enhance safety for everyone in the area. I have followed the proper channels prior to this meeting by discussing these matters with Lily, Mark, Charles, Dwayne Jones, also sending a letter to Mayor Thompson, Chief Mills, and Mr. Ames. Despite these efforts, I have not yet reached a resolution. I would appreciate guidance on when a determination regarding these concerns might be expected and any further steps that I should take. In conclusion, while I may stand alone, I do so with a strong sense of purpose and commitment. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Ms. Cindy Sherman?
I'd like to thank the board for giving us the opportunity to work out this issue we're having with the Forest Preserve District. My name is Joel Denenberg. We're at 3061 Terry Lane. The Forest Preserve District of Cook County has, I guess 6 or 7 years ago, decided to not allow us to mow behind Addison Creek and Salt Creek, and they gave us a demarcation line of a berm. I mean, we're in a floodplain, and there's a berm that is about a 3 or 4 foot rise. And then recently, this year, they came out and decided to want us to not touch the property all the way up to our property line, which is about 15 or 20 feet or so above the berm, and there's like 4 feet tall of weeds. It's just pretty bad. We're looking at ticks and coyotes and other unwanted creatures, coming in, getting closer to our property. So we understand that this is the Forest Preserve, their property. They don't want anything on their permanent. We're just looking for some kind of, variance or something to allow us to at least groom that area up until the demarcation where the berm is. And there were about 40 or so homeowners that we had addressed last weekend. We dropped off letters, and hopefully there's a representation here, but we just need somebody to come out from the Forest Preserve and take a look at, actually see what's going on, because looking at a drawing or a blueprint from over the top isn't really do it justice, and see what they're putting us through. So I just don't know if we can arrange something with the Forest Preserve.
Thank you for your comment. Ms. Erica Gutierrez.
Hi. Good evening, and thanks for the opportunity. I'm going to piggyback off of what you said. That's the reason why I'm here as well. So last Wednesday, since we were told that we couldn't cut the grass back there, it's been a huge problem. I have raccoons in my swimming pool, caught on camera. There's paw prints all over because they just feel that comfortable coming into my backyard. My dog got sprayed by a skunk on Wednesday night, and it cost me over $400 just to get him cleaned up. He needed like an allergy medication, and the smell, the penetration in my home was awful. So it's just, I understand the importance of preserving nature, but it poses a threat to our property, our pets, and our kids as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay. I got you down.
Hi, everybody. Hi. I've been here forever. My dad built the house in the 50s, and the village used to, or the actual forest preserve people used to cut the grass there twice a year, and it was maintained beautifully. And I understand all the fauna and the flora and all that. That's wonderful. But you know what? It is a forest preserve, but it's our homes. We have to look at that every day. And it's not very pleasant. If you would come and look at our backyards, you'll see what I'm talking about. It looks like a wasteland. No one has maintained this at all. And all of a sudden, 60 years later or whatever, they show up and start, I understand if there's a boat on their property, but we're talking about 100 square feet. We're talking about a garden that may have to be ripped up. It's ridiculous. That's all I can say. I'm sorry, but I think it is. And I don't know what else to say, but like I said, it's a forest preserve, but it's also our neighborhood. We have to look out the window and see this every day. And the weeds or the fauna or the natural, yeah, they're fine, but I don't want them in my yard this tall. I don't know what's there. I'm out gardening. I don't want to get bit. I don't want to get attacked. And I have animals too, and I worry about them. And what is this doing to our property value? I have no idea, but I just want the emotional part of it so that you all understand what we're all going through. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So public comments, I'll address public comments at the end of the board meeting, but I do want to say that citizen participation is highly encouraged, especially when we deal with situations like this that the village cannot mandate or enforce. And so when we show up in numbers, we're able to fight together. And so the conversation that we have with the property tax is the same thing. What are the solutions? So who can I rely on to give me the solution so that when we talk to the county, when we talk to Commissioner Aguilar, his chief of staff, Michaela, is here tonight. So if you guys have any questions or input that you can leave with her for the commissioner, because he's your Cook County commissioner and he's aware of the situation. I believe last week it was Ken. I don't know if I'm saying it, but it was last week a resident from that came into the village and we had a discussion regarding this. And I called Commissioner right there on the spot when he was standing right there. Because when we fight together to come up with solutions, best practices, and how we move the village forward. We have to do this work together. So I'm interested in those that's looking to put in some solutions, make some recommendations. Like what would be some solutions, because we know they own the property. And we know that it's been over 60 years that this has been probably problematic up until now. So what are the solutions? So just kind of digest that and send me an email or call my office and we can start troubleshooting to put in policy that impact Broadview residents. I don't know why. So that we can put solutions in place. I just don't believe in us complaining about an issue and we just want to rah-rah and get people at meetings and get the emotions high at stake. It's better when we put policy together and we make a recommendation. And hopefully they enforce they take a chance on us and adopt our recommendations. But when they don't, then we know who to hold accountable when they asking for our vote and support when it's time to vote for them. So that's where we are right now. So who's gonna take the lead? Or should I just call everybody on this list? You'll take the lead. Tell me your name again. Georgina. Okay, so I'm gonna ask Ms. Jones to get I got your phone number here. So I will follow up with you probably on Wednesday to have that conversation, but I'll address all of the public comments at the end of the board meeting, okay? So I appreciate you all showing up, because when you show up, Michaela is here, Michaela, did you want to say anything? You can come to the mic. And then we'll go right into the rest of the board meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. This was the first we've heard of this issue, so I'm happy to give you all my business card. If you want the commissioner to come out, he's very hands-on. He'll show up at your house anytime you need him. So we can come out, we can take a look at the situation. Additionally, the Forest Preserve meets monthly. The Board of Commissioners for the Forest Preserve meets monthly, and I can share that information with you. And also Luke is here from the Forest Preserves. We're happy to speak with you after the meeting, but maybe the initial step is for us to come and put eyes on it and see the situation. I will say this just briefly. The Forest Preserve are the stewards of the Forest Preserve. They hold on to it tightly. I love your people, but they do not play around about their grasslands. So this is going to be an ongoing conversation, but their job is to protect the forest preserve and make sure that it's natural.
And our job is to protect the
Biosphere.
residents of Broadview.
Amen. So, but I think we should start the conversation and all come to the table honestly. And so thank you for writing the letter. And I'll make sure everyone gets my card. I'm happy to stick around to the end, or if you want to step
Yeah,
outside. we
If
can
you all
talk
want to
now.
step out and talk to Michaela and the young man from the Forest Preserve, you're happy to do that. What I'll do is when I talk to you, Mr. Denenberg, what I'll do is I'll schedule a meeting where we all can go out at the same time, like the Public Works Department, the Building Department, and the residents over there, so that we all can see it at the same time. So we'll get a meeting scheduled for Commissioner Aguilar, get on his calendar, and then the Forest Preserve, and then all of us will meet over there in that area. Because sometimes what takes place, and what I've learned being in this role, is government will just take over and don't get input, like invite us to the table to have the conversation before you implement a change. And I pride us in Broadview that when we make a change in Broadview, we host community meetings, we have town hall meetings, because it's engagement and we want everybody input before we decide. They just decide, and you all been there for a long time, and you gotta have some consideration. So Forest Preserve, just like you all are very territorial, I'm very territorial of the people that live here in Broadview as well.
And I want to say thank you to you, the commissioner. Sorry he couldn't be here today,
He
and thank you
traveling.
for passing this information on to us.
Thank you, Michaela, for showing up. Okay, so if you all want to go out and talk to Michaela, you can, and then I'll follow up with Joel.
Thank you all for being here today.
Oh, you're
Thank
welcome.
you, Michaela.
How you doing? Judy, how you doing? I'm okay. You okay? I love your nail polish. You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Clerk.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 3, presentations. We have none. Item 4, communications, none today. And before we go on, let the record reflect that at 7:36 p.m., trustees Abraham and Miller arrived to the meeting. Item 5, consideration to approve the following minutes. Minutes from the July 1st, 2024 regular board meeting.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by trustee Senior, seconded by trustee Chalmalave. Madam President, open for discussion.
Thank you. Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments? Trustee Senior? No question. Trustee Chalmalave?
No question.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
I haven't reviewed them, so I'm just gonna hope that everything is all well with them. I don't have any questions, but thanks for getting us the information.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, roll call. Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next item, item 6. Consideration to approve expenditures. Grand total of all funds, $415,893.67 for the period ending July 10th, 2024.
Motion to approve. Second.
It's been properly motioned by trustee Senior, seconded by trustee Abraham. Madam President.
Thank you. Trustee Shelby, the finance chairwoman, will you please read the warrant list from July 10th, 2024?
Yes, thank you. Okay, the vendors, AT&T, in the amount of $11,605.03. Core and Main LP, $6,839.06. CSR Roofing Contractors Incorporated, $142,279.67. Edwin Hancock Engineering Company, $113,476.68. Flock Group Incorporated, $7,074.54. Geno's Heating and Plumbing Incorporated, $50,297.40. Mabus Division 20 in the amount of $7,000. Mid-American Water, $7,240.69. Nicole Jackson in the amount of $3,500. Seven Generations Ahead, $19,023. Stryker Sales LLC in the amount of $24,205.90. Tier Point LLC in the amount of $3,701.81. The total of expenditures over $2,500 came to $396,243.78, which is 95% of our total expenditures in the amount of $415,893.67. We also had some manual payments. The vendor, Illinois Secretary of State, the date was July the 1st, 2024, check number 86551 in the amount of $850. We also had Moore Financial Group, LLC. The date was July the 2nd, 2024, check number 86552 in the amount of $178. Precise Digital Printing Incorporated. Date of checks, July the 9th, 2024, check number 86553 in the amount of $750. Sharice Henderson, date July the 9th, 2024, check number 86554 in the amount of $300. The total of the manual payments was $2,078. The following accounts that were affected by these expenditures, we have the general fund account in the amount of $88,865.22. The motor fuel tax fund in the amount of $5,460. We have the CDBG fund in the amount of $16,250. The Roosevelt Road TIF fund in the amount of $97,561.22. And we have the Capital Projects Fund in the amount of $142,279.67, and the Water and Sewage Fund in the amount of $65,477.56, again for a grand total of $415,893.67. And Madam Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Shelby. Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments?
No, none.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalave?
No questions.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
No questions.
Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And this carries 5-0 to pass those bills. Next item, consideration to approve expenditures grand total of all funds, $1,111,497.58 for the period ending July 31st, 2024.
Motion to approve. Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Senior, seconded by Trustee Abraham. Madam President.
Thank you. Trustee Shelby, Finance Chairwoman, will you please read the warrant list from July 31st, 2024?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you.
The vendors, 1950 Beach LLC in the amount of $25,000. AT&T, $8,331.99. B&F Construction Code Services, $5,361.51. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois, $152,633.26. The Broadview Public Library District, an amount of $3,070. the Broadview Westchester Joint Water Agency in the amount of $273,626.73. CDB Electric LLC in the amount of $26,520.51. Chicagoland Paving Contractors in the amount of $467,120.50. Comcast Business in the amount of $4,563.48. ComEd in the amount of $3,898.66. David Owensby Incorporated, $3,000. Delgado Law Group LLC, $15,990. Elizabeth Reyes, $2,600. Image Trend, $4,175. Chronicle Minolta Premier Finance in the amount of $6,355. Lincoln National Life Insurance, $6,380.96. Lopez Auto Repair, $2,720. Paramedic Billing Services Incorporated, $9,706.44. RL Real Solutions of Illinois LLC, $10,000. Securitas Technology Corporation, $10,784.76. Technical Fire Equipment LLC in the amount of $5,366.18. And the West Cook County Solid Waste Agency in the amount of $18,878.03. The total of expenditures over $2,500 came to $1,066,083.01, which is 96% of our total expenditures in the amount of $1,111,497.58. We also had some manual payments. The vendors, the Cook County ETSB, the date July 15, 2024, check number 86596 in the amount of $1,682,700.66. We also had the Cook County ETSB, date July the 15th, 2024, check number 86597 in the amount of $105,471.04. We had Simone's Catering, July the 23rd, 2024, check number 86599 in the amount of $850. We also had Simone's Catering, date of check July the 23rd, 2024, check number 86600 in the amount of $850. We have Taj Carpenter, date of check July the 16th, 2024, check number 86598 in the amount of $490. The total of the manual payments came to $1,790,361.70. We also had electronic payments, and the vendor was a Chase credit card, payments reflecting as of June the 25th, 2024, in the amount of $7,479.44. Okay, the following accounts were affected by these, the following accounts affected by these expenditures. We have the general fund account in the amount of $320,429.47. We have the garbage fuel in the amount of $18,878.03. The motor fuel tax fund in the amount of $3,687.91. The Roosevelt Road TIF fund in the amount of $243.75. The Capital Projects Fund in the amount of $493,787.26. And the Water and Sewage Fund in the amount of $274,471.16. Again, for a grand total of $1,111,497.58. And Madam Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, trustee Shelby. Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments?
No, none.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalave?
No questions.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
No.
Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham,
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave,
Yes.
Trustee Senior,
Yes.
Trustee Shelby,
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent, Trustee Miller,
Yes.
and this too carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next item, 7, application for the authority to expend funds totaling $45,745.50. We're going to split this into 2 purchase orders, starting with Core and Main in the amount of $15,665.50 for Public Works.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Abraham, seconded by Trustee Senior. Madam President.
Thank you. Director Ames, will you tell us about this purchase order?
I can. Good evening, Mayor, everyone.
Good evening.
The Core and Main purchase orders for a sewer camera. So oftentimes we have to contract the service out to find the integrity of the sewer laterals, whether it's residential side or the public works side. So that's what this expenditure is for.
And this is in your budget, correct?
It is.
Thank you. Trustee Abraham?
No questions.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalave?
Is there training for
Yes,
whoever's
yes.
gonna be specific training to
It
use this
is.
equipment? No other questions?
Thank you. Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
No.
Thank you. Can we get a roll call, Mr. Clerk?
Roll call. Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next is Train Technologies in the amount of $30,080 for the fire department.
Motion to approve. Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Abraham, seconded by Trustee Senior. Madam President.
Thank you. Chief Bryan, will you tell us about this purchase order?
Certainly. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This is for an approved budgeted purchase for our antiquated heating and cooling system for the fire department. It lacks efficiency, and this purchase will include necessary upgrades towards building automation. The current valves are obsolete, so they were replaced with the manufactured recommended new chilled and hot water valves, along with pneumatic actuated valves. I will entertain any questions.
Thank you, Chief. I have one question. With the heating and cooling system, I know that this is allocated in your budget, but is this part of the grant for Build Up Cook? Will that cover that?
Well, this is actually in a repair.
Okay.
Because the systems, the heating units have a banging noise.
Okay.
And we need to get those valves replaced right
Okay, thank you. Trustee Abraham?
No questions.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalave?
How old is that system?
now. I believe the building was built in 1948 or 1966. Yeah. So it's pretty old. Very much antiquated.
Okay. And this is going to allow it to continue?
It's towards the building automation. And we have more repairs to come.
Okay.
We're doing it in phases.
Piecemeal. No other questions?
Thank you. Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
Okay, maybe I'm the only one that doesn't understand what this actually is. So is there like a diagram or something to what we're replacing?
Well, we're replacing the chilled and hot water valves.
I read that part. I'm asking, is there a diagram for what's being replaced?
A diagram of the entire unit that's in the basement
Yeah.
right now?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a photo of that, man.
Okay.
Any other questions, trustee?
Nope.
Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave.
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller.
Abstain.
And this carries 4-0 with 1 abstention. Thank you. Next is item 8, committee reports, which are given at every first meeting of the month, starting with our Business License Committee. Trustee Armour is absent today. Does anyone have anything in her stead?
No.
No report. Thank you. Next is Police and Fire Committee. Trustee Miller.
I don't have a report. This is on me for not being available this weekend. I was out of town. But when we have certain items for the fire and police department, I'm gonna try to get with you guys or get with the department heads prior to that so that I can gain some understanding on what we're being requested to approve here. I don't know if any of the other trustees had done that, but I literally was out of the country, so that's why I was like, thanks for getting us the packet. I did a poor job at reviewing today in a few hours, but, so that's on me for not asking you prior, and I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, Chief. But it's certain things that I look for when I'm expected to approve, and I'll try to be more forthcoming with talking to you, both chiefs, prior to the meeting. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Miller. Next is the Finance Committee, Trustee Shelby.
No, nothing to report.
I couldn't hear, I'm sorry.
Nothing to report.
Thank you very much, no report. Next is Building and Public Property, Trustee Chamalave.
I do not have a report.
Thank you, Trustee Chamalave. Next is Water, Drainage, and Health, Trustee Senior.
I do not have a report at this time.
Thank you. Next, Street, Sidewalks, and Alleys, Trustee Abraham.
Just want to make a brief comment, and if Director Ames would like to add anything to it. As you know, in the Beverly section, we have 2 streets that are ongoing construction, and we're going to be receiving curbs, which is going to be nice, because we never had curbs over there, so that'll help with the water. Any other updates, Director Ames? I'm assuming they look like they're on time, on track. Do we concur on that? Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Trustee. And that concludes our committee reports. Next is item 9, old business. We have none. Bringing us to item 10, new business. A resolution of the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois, reappointing Larry Watkins to the Police Pension Board.
Motion to approve?
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Abraham, seconded by Trustee Senior. Madam President.
Thank you. So this is just a reappointment of Larry Watkins, who is on the Police Pension Board. And this is just to reappoint him to he's been with us probably as long as I've been here, 8 years, and prior to. So he does a good job. I asked him if he wanted to return. He said yes. So, Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments?
No. None.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chamalave?
No question.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
You answered it. I was gonna ask, I was gonna ask how long, Mr. Watkins had been on the board. I couldn't find anything, but I saw we reappointed him. So clearly, he must be doing something if the Police Pension Board hasn't come back to say he isn't. So, okay, that was it.
All right, Mr. Clerk?
Roll call. Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chamalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next, item B, a resolution authorizing and approving expenses related to Village President Katrina Thompson's attendance at the National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials, NBC Leo, Summer Conference for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve?
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Abraham, seconded by Trustee Senior. Madam President.
Thank you. So this was for the NBC Leo, which is the National Black Caucus of Elected Officials. We held our summer conference here in Chicago this year, where I chaired as the parliamentarian and I chair our bylaws committee. And the cost for the conference was $375, and for room, it was $947.42. It was good to see the other trustees being in attendance and participating in the summer conference this year. Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments?
No questions.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chamalave?
None.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
No questions.
Mr. Clerk?
Roll call. Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chamalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next, item C, a resolution authorizing and approving expenses related to the President Katrina Thompson's attendance at the Illinois Municipal League Summer Board meeting in Springfield, Illinois, for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Been properly motioned by Trustee Abraham, seconded by Trustee Senior. Madam President.
Thank you. As a vice president of the IML Board of Directors, I'm required to participate in 4 quarterly meetings every year. The cost for this one, we was down in Fairview Heights this year, and the conference for a hotel was $1,304.02, and that was the only expense that we had was hotel accommodations. Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments?
No, none.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalabe?
None.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
No questions.
Mr. Clerk?
Roll call, trustee Abraham,
Yes.
trustee Chalmalabi,
Yes.
trustee Senior,
Yes.
trustee Shelby,
Yes.
trustee Armour is absent, trustee Miller,
Yes.
and this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next item is D, a resolution authorizing and approving certain expenses related to attendance at the Illinois Municipal League Conference for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by trustee Abraham, seconded by trustee Senior. Madam President.
Thank you. This is for the IML annual conference that's held in September 19th through the 21st. All of the trustees were invited to participate. Trustee Judy Miller was the only one that said that she wanted to attend. So for the conference, it's $325. For lodging is $929.73 for a total of $1,254.73. Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments?
No, none.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalabi?
None.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
I don't have any questions, but I am disappointed if I'm the only one that's going to attend. I hope someone changes their mind. I actually appreciate the IML because it's actually for Illinois municipal governments such as us, and I think it's a little more engaging to find out stuff that's happening with our neighboring communities. No shade to the national conferences that we attend, but I'm hoping that somebody else decides to go off our board, so I'm not there by myself. I'm going to represent regardless, but hopefully one of you guys can actually make it.
Thank you, Trustee. Mr. Clerk?
Okay, roll call. Trustee Abraham,
Yes.
trustee Chalmalabi,
Yes.
trustee Senior.
Yes.
And I'm gonna ask you guys once again, if you don't mind, please speak into the mic so the audio recording can be heard. Trustee Shelby,
Yes.
trustee Armour is absent, trustee Miller,
Yes.
and this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next, item E, a resolution authorizing and approving expenses related to Village President Katrina Thompson's attendance at the California Association of Black School Educators, CABSE, conference for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by trustee Abraham, seconded by trustee Senior. Madam President.
Thank you. So I had an opportunity to attend this California Association of Black School Educators, July 14th through July 17th. And the only thing that I had to do was purchase an airline ticket to participate. So it wasn't, I didn't have to pay for the conference, I didn't have to pay for hotel accommodations. But it was an opportunity for me to go and see what's happening at a national level as it relates to educating black students. And so I was able to talk to other local leaders that was at that conference and build relationships. Because as many as you may know, we have the Broadview Freedom School. And the Broadview Freedom School is an initiative that I started 2 years ago. And so in order for that school to sustain, we have to bring in partnerships, collaboration, so that the school can sustain, because LINDAP cannot carry that burden by itself. So it takes all of us to do the work and be intentional about the work that's being done. Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments?
No, none.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalabi?
No.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
I don't have any questions, but just to address the comment that I heard about this, so I think most of us know that when you go to the conferences that you're actually there in representation, but I appreciate you showing on your social media platform that you was actually at this conference. And I saw the award that LINDOT received, and it's great that we didn't have to pay additional lodging or conference fees or anything of that nature. A flight ticket is kind of minuscule to what we normally pay, as I think most of our residents can see to attend conferences. It's $600 to $700, even $800 just for an attendance. So for you to be there to represent with the school board probably speaks volumes on any other community or district that can show that their village board is behind the school board, but we're still holding them accountable so they can bring back resources as well. None of us would have known about it. I'm almost sure I wouldn't have been there, but I think that it's good for you to call out that you went and why you went and what we saved or what we didn't spend for your attendance there. So that was it.
Thank you. So I will add to that comment, trustee. You know, as we, Broadview is becoming a national brand. It's not just local or just within the state of Illinois. And so I've come up across different opportunities where I'm able to get expenses allocated for me to travel to different things so that they can hear from a local voice, such as when we talk about strong city networks, I was able to go to New York as we talk about global crises and those things. And that, even though we're a small town and a small village, but we got a really big voice on a national platform. And while we have their attention, they are asking me to sit on panels and to do these things. And sometimes it's all, like strong cities, the expenses was all covered. This one, they asked me to pay for my airfare. They got me on the accommodation. So I'm grateful that we're able to participate, but I'm grateful that people recognize the work that's really going into how we move Broadview forward and how we build our own strong community through our education system. So thank you. Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chamalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next, item F, a resolution authorizing and approving a certain franchise with Comcast Illinois 4, Inc., with the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Abraham, seconded by Trustee Senior. Madam President.
Director Ames, you want to tell us about this franchise agreement?
Yes. I would like to defer to the village attorney if you have any knowledge about it.
He don't.
He don't?
No,
Okay.
because Tiffany is sick.
Okay. To my understanding, the franchise agreement is something that we've executed in the past. Basically, identifying the operations for Comcast in the Village of Broadview as it relates to their maintenance for the infrastructure, right-of-way, construction, and those type of things. So, Mayor, is there anything else you'd like for me to comment on?
No, I know that you had worked on this with legal on this. That's why I asked you to.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did. I reviewed it with legal just to make sure that, if nothing else, the village was whole. So.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments?
No questions.
Trustee Senior?
No question.
Trustee Chamalave?
No.
Trustee Shelby?
Yes, I'm a little lost with this. It's a resolution authorizing and approving a certain franchise with Comcast to do what?
Well, to operate within the Village of Broadview.
Oh, to operate, okay.
Yeah, much like any other utility provider. It's a franchise agreement, just basically identifying the rights for them to operate within the Village of Broadview.
Okay, thank you.
And then Trustee Shelby, on page 6, it outlines through section 4.1 on down on what the obligation is.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Trustee Miller?
Yeah, I'm kind of lost too, because franchise is throwing me off. I'm trying to go back and see if that was mentioned anywhere before, and I don't see that. You said something about to make sure that the village is whole. So what's the financial impact, if any, that we'll have? And I saw it mentioned 5% gross revenue back to the Village of Broadview. So is that based off of the Comcast service?
And as a matter of fact, Finance Director Tom Hood, if I can defer to him, Mayor, I do know that he has more knowledge about the financial impact to the Village of Broadview, so.
And then just for a point of reference as it relates to franchise agreement, most utilities, we've had franchise agreements with ComEd, AT&T, NICOR, and Comcast. So in utilities, they call it franchise agreement. I don't know why. But we've had long-term standing franchise agreements with all of those entities, and now I think some of them are coming up to renewal where back 25 years ago, franchise agreements were in place. It was impacting us greatly, and now that these agreements are coming to a term, we are in a position to negotiate things that we want, especially when it comes to our right-of-ways.
So I'm a little out, since Tiffany's not here for the nuts and bolts of this specific agreement, but as was just said, we have franchise agreements with NICOR, ComEd, Comcast has an old one. Most all of our utilities have a franchise agreement that allows them to come in, put in their equipment in town, operate in town, and we normally get some benefit back, whether it's electricity towards our street lights or gas. They subsidize the gas to the public works buildings. I'm saying all public buildings, not just public works. And so this is a similar type of agreement for Comcast.
I think a specific question was about the 5%, if I'm not mistaken, Trustee Miller?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna
and I gotta be honest, I apologize. I did review that. I don't have the contract in front of me. I was not prepared to, forgive me, Mayor, to talk about the details. On the incorrect assumption, thought that Attorney Tiffany Jaworski would be here. So.
If I may add, just specifically, you're referring to, in the contract, it's section 5.1, the grantee who here is the
Yes.
Comcast is paying an amount equal to 5% to the annual gross revenue received from the operation of that cable. So,
Did you hear him, Trustee?
Yeah, I heard him, but I don't think he knew the answer either. He just read back what's in the document. I'm just.
Well, I'd have to check with Tiffany. I don't know if that's in services or cash payment, et cetera, but yeah, they basically, to operate here, they're giving us something.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions, Trustee?
No.
Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham,
Yes.
Trustee Chamalave,
Abstain.
abstaining.
Yes.
Trustee Senior,
Yes.
Trustee Shelby,
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller,
Yes, with the contingency that I get more information from the attorney about this.
I'm sure she'll reach out to you.
Thank you.
And Madam President, this carries 4-1 with 1 abstention. Thank you. Next, item G, a resolution authorizing and approving an agreement with Edwin Hancock Engineering Company for certain professional engineering services related to the lead service replacement IEPA loan application process for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Once again, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Senior, seconded by Trustee Abraham. Madam President.
Thank you. Director Ames, tell us about this IPA.
I am familiar with this one, Mayor. So basically, this is an engineering agreement, in essence, to put in some of the basic applications that's necessary for us to obtain low-interest IPA loan for the identification of replacing the lead service line. So we just completed that inventory, and as you all know, I think we've been given 17 years to replace all of the identified lead service lines here in the Village of Broadview. Right now, I know that the ongoing discussion with the financial team about the rate increases to fund this, but in essence, this is to get all of the technical information that's going to be required to make the application.
Thank you. Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments?
None.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chamalave?
No questions.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
So just for the record, it's 27,000 something I saw?
That sounds about right.
Okay. And that, okay, thanks. That's it.
Hold on, let us get the right amount for the record. $24,720 for
Thanks.
Hancock Engineer. Thank you, Trustee Miller. Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham,
Yes.
Trustee Chamalave,
Yes.
Trustee Senior,
Yes.
Trustee Shelby,
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller?
Yes.
And this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next, item H, a resolution authorizing a certain advisory referendum question regarding whether the Village of Broadview should create a motorcycle unit of the police department to be placed on the ballot to be voted on at the general primary election to be held on November 5th, 2024 for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Senior, seconded by Trustee Chalmalave. Madam President?
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So there's 3 advisory questions that's up for discussion tonight and approval for the November election. But let me explain what an advisory question is, because you got a lot of misinformation during public comment. An advisory question is a type of ballot measure that is non-binding, meaning the outcome of the ballot measure has no legal effect on a state law. This type of ballot measure is also known as an advisory vote. There are various reasons for non-binding questions. The general purpose is to allow government officials to gauge public opinion on certain policies or subjects to encourage officials to take certain action. So these 3 questions are yes or no, and it's for us to gauge and get information from the residents that live here on what direction we should be moving forward as we go forward. So it's an advisory question. It's not something that's going to be implemented, taxes, none of that. It's just a yes or no question that we're asking for input so that we can collect data at election time. Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments?
No questions.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalave?
I have my questions answered.
Thank you. Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
I'm good with advisory questions. I like for our residents and the public to be involved. However, when we put this referendum item on, or request for it to be on the ballot if it makes the cutoff, are we planning to share information with the residents on what it actually means? So a lot of times I'll see something on the ballot and nobody has, not Broadview, but just in general, and nobody has shared anything to tell us, so it's yes or no. I don't care. Like, a lot of times, if you don't know and you're not educated on what something means, then you vote contrary to what you would have voted if you had been informed.
So I understand that, but these 3 proposed questions has no effect on state laws. And we are in this meeting, we having conversation in the stream live, so they got some feedback on what an advisory question is. And as it comes up, we can bring it up on election day when people have the palm cards if we decide to do that, but I can't do that work by myself. So it would take all of us to be able to explain what the questions are.
Well, I can't answer it because I don't even know what the question really is.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave?
Yes.
Trustee Senior?
Yes.
Trustee Shelby?
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller?
Abstain.
And this carries 4-0 with 1 abstention. Thank you. Next, item I, a resolution authorizing a certain advisory referendum question regarding whether the Village of Broadview should adopt certain environmental policies to help limit climate change, even if such policies may result in additional costs to the taxpayers of the village, to be placed on the ballot to be voted on at the general primary election to be held on November 5th, 2024 for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Senior, seconded by Trustee Chalmalave. Madam President?
Again, this is an advisory question. It's not, no legal effect on state laws or the Village of Broadview laws, but I do want to address that one of the comments that came in public comment saying that we were adding taxes or increasing for services, and that's furthest from the truth. This is for us to engage as it relates to environmental justice in the Black community and what that looked like for us, and would the community be willing, if that came up, that it would be a cost. One thing that I can pride ourselves on in the Village of Broadview, the cost that may be affected with this, we've gotten grants for. We've gotten over $1 million in grants to cover these types of initiatives that we're doing. But we want to gauge the community on what it is that they're looking for, because as you all are aware, we are in the process of doing our comprehensive plan. And so this feedback and the data collected gives us the information on what direction we need to lead and move forward on. Trustee Abraham, you have any questions or comments?
No questions.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalave?
I think it's a great way to gather that data, especially when it comes to environmental, and if our residents want to, take on that cost. So it is a great question.
Thank you. Trustee Shelby?
I had my questions answered earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Miller?
Same statement from the previous.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham,
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave,
Yes.
Trustee Senior,
Yes.
Trustee Shelby,
Yes.
Trustee Armour absent, Trustee Miller,
Abstain.
and this carries 4-0 with one abstention. Thank you. Next, item J, a resolution authorizing a certain advisory referendum question regarding whether the Village of Broadview should encourage the placement of electric vehicle charging stations in commercial areas to be placed on the ballot to be voted on at the general primary election to be held on November 5th, 2024 for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Senior, seconded by Trustee Chalmalave. Madam President?
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This particular question is still surrounding environmental justice in the Village of Broadview and how we look at charging station in our commercial area. We have some EV charging stations that's going to be coming online. I don't know how soon, but I know we've been having several meetings regarding some charging stations getting into the municipal lots. And so this is just, again, to gauge the community on what that looked like for us in our commercial area. Trustee Abraham?
No questions.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalave?
None.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Roll call. Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Absolutely.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller.
Abstain.
And Madam President, this carries 4-0 with one abstention. Thank you all. Next item, K, an ordinance regulating public camping within corporate boundaries and other actions in connection therewith for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Senior, seconded by Trustee Shelby, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. So this ordinance that's up for discussion tonight is camping in public property. Well, as you are aware that we do have a homeless problem. And sometimes they pick up camp and tents and stuff like that. And in the past, they would consider that as harassment if the police department would go to tell them to move. They couldn't reside there. Well, just a couple of weeks ago, the Supreme Court ruled in local government favor where we can actually ask them to not camp up there. And so this ordinance is in place to give the police department the authority to ask them to move their tents if they decide to camp in a vacant lot or something like that. Trustee Abraham?
No questions.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalave?
None.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
So I see this comes with a fine or a penalty or something. So how do we enforce those fines and penalties for homeless people that probably don't even have ID or money? How do we ticket them?
So typically, if they out, it's with any enforcement, we give them the citation, they have an opportunity to come to court. If they don't come to court, then the ticket stay or it doubles until they show up. We won't know where to find them, but it's still a process that we have to follow, and this is how we handle all citations in the Village of Broadview. They get cited, they have an opportunity to go before the prosecutor and the judge.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave?
Yes.
Trustee Senior?
Yes.
Trustee Shelby?
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller?
Yes.
And this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next item, L, a motion to establish consent agenda to include the following items. All items on the proposed consent agenda are related to the IDOT resolutions for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Senior, seconded by Trustee Abraham, and I will now read the items that we are considering under this consent agenda into the record. Number 1, Resolution for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code, section number 11-00000-00-GM. Number 2, resolution for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code, section number 12-00000-00-GM. Number 3, resolution for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code, section number 13-00000-00-GM. Number 4, resolution for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code, section number 15-00000-00-GM. And number 5, resolution for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code, section number 16-00000-00-GM. Okay, Madam President, this is now open for discussion.
Thank you. Director Hood, can you tell us about all of these resolutions and how we got to this point?
Sure, I can. Last Monday, a week ago from today, IDOT gave me a call. The state has decided to go back and do, I think they referred to it as a document review. So they're going over all the municipalities in the states, prior audits, and they're looking to make sure that in their system, the documents are there. So each time we've done an MFT project over the last, and some of this stuff goes back to 1994, just so that you guys know how far back they're going. There is a certain format that they want the resolutions submitted to a certain office at IDOT. As you guys have seen our resolutions, we've done all these resolutions in the past. The project is done. We've spent the money. We're just rewriting our prior resolutions into the format in which they want and then submitting them. Any questions?
Trustee Abraham?
No, none.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chamalave?
None.
Trustee Shelby?
Yeah, I'm just looking here and I see dates back to
Oh, these I think,
2011.
what these go, I think 11?
Yeah.
Yeah, through our engineers, they're going back like almost 40 years in Oak Park. If there's certain things that if we go back far enough, it's just gonna be hard to find the resolution that was passed in 2004.
Right.
So we will do what they want, and we'll just bring it up and submit it, and that way they can check their box at IDOT, and they'll be happy.
And this is something that we would have to pay. We have to pay these fees, right?
Well, it's not so much fee. This is money that we've
Money
spent
that
on
we
the
have-
projects. From the state's point of view, they're still open like we didn't spend it. So this is the paperwork that is showing that we did the project, completed it. Because along with these, I'm submitting the invoices and the negotiated checks.
Okay,
So
thank
when
you.
we paid, pick a Builders Pavers LLC for doing Fillmore, I've got a copy of that. I've got a copy of the engineer's invoice. I've got the 2 checks. I'm just putting that with the invoices, putting them with this and sending it to them.
Okay, thank you.
So they're really straightening up their records for the last 3 or 4 decades.
Thank you, Trustee Shelby. Trustee Miller?
No questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk?
Okay, again, this is to establish the consent agenda. We're voting on that, which is item L. Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Trustee Chamalave?
Yes.
Trustee Senior?
Yes.
Trustee Shelby?
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller?
Yes.
And that carries 5-0. Now, item M is going to be to actually vote for the 5 items. Item M is a motion to approve all items of the consent agenda as established.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Properly motioned by Trustee Shelby, seconded by Trustee Senior. Madam President?
Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Trustee Chamalave?
Yes.
Trustee Senior?
Yes.
Trustee Shelby?
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller?
Yes.
And this carries 5-0. Thank you for that. Next, item N. A motion to approve any items removed from the consent agenda. None were, so we're going to strike this from the record. Let me just ask for a motion to strike.
A motion to strike.
Second.
Been properly motioned by Trustee Shelby, seconded by Trustee Senior to strike the record, strike item N from the record. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing no opposition, item N has been stricken from the record. It's not necessary. Next, item O, consideration of an application for a business license requested by Robert Lucas Enterprises, Inc., doing business as Lucas Enterprises at 3050 South 25th Avenue, Unit A, to operate in the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by trustee Senior, seconded by trustee Abraham. Madam President.
Thank you. Commissioner Upshaw, you want to tell us about this business?
Good evening, Mayor, Board, everyone in attendance. Robert Lucas Enterprises, doing business as Lucas Enterprises, will be located at 3050 25th Avenue, Unit A. The nature of their business is they sell products to companies doing work to prevent corrosion in their pipelines. They've passed all their final inspections and are compliant with all village codes. I'll entertain any questions at this time.
Thank you. Trustee Abraham?
No questions.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chalmalave?
No question.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Miller?
No questions.
Mr. Clerk?
Roll call, trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And it carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next, item P, consideration of an application for a business license requested by Perfect Splash at 2141 South 15th Avenue to operate in the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by trustee Senior, seconded by trustee Abraham. Madam President.
Thank you. Before you start, Commissioner Upshaw, on Saturday when we were moved with the mayor and we were walking, we was on that side of town and we walked past this Paw Splash. And they got some cute little dog outfits. If you have pets, you should go check it out. I don't even know if they open yet, but they was closed when we walked there. Okay, Commissioner Upshaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Paul Perfect, as the clerk stated, will be located at 2141 South 15th Avenue. It is a pet grooming business. They have had their final inspections, are compliant with all village codes. And I'll entertain any questions as well at this time.
Thank you, trustee Abraham.
No questions, just welcome to our community.
Thank you, trustee Senior.
No questions, but I'm happy about this.
Take social.
Yeah,
Trustee
I gotta take
Chalmalave.
social.
I was just sharing that I'm hoping to adopt a puppy next week, so this is great.
Oh, perfect.
Congratulations. Trustee Shelby.
No questions.
Trustee Miller.
No questions.
Mr. Clerk.
Roll call, trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next item. Item Q. Consideration of an application for a business license requested by Precious Hands Daycare at 2230 South 13th Avenue to operate in the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by trustee Abraham, seconded by trustee Senior. Madam President.
Thank you, Commissioner Upshaw. Tell us about Precious Hands Daycare.
Yes, as the clerk mentioned, Precious Heart Daycare will be located at 2230 South 13th Avenue. It's a child care service for children 6 weeks to 12 years of age. They have their state license, and that is effective till 11/7/2026. They've passed all inspections and are compliant with all village codes. I'll entertain any questions at this time.
Thank you, trustee Abraham.
No questions.
Trustee Senior.
Is this a house or?
This is a house.
It is a house. Okay. That's it. Just
Thank you.
wondering.
Trustee Chalmalave.
No question.
Trustee Shelby.
No questions.
Trustee Miller.
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chalmalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour is absent. Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And this carries 5-0. Thank you all.
Thank you, Board.
All right, next item is item 11, Village Clerk's Report. I don't have much. I just wanted to let the board know I do plan on attending the IML conference this year. I will be submitting my paperwork to the mayor for consideration on our next board meeting, and I hope to see more of you there as well. That concludes my report. Next item is item 12, Village President Report, Mayor Katrina Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I have a lot to say because we only meet once a month, and it's a lot that has happened within the last time we met. So I hope everyone is enjoying your summer. It's been a lot of stuff happening, and I'm having a great summer, and I see Trustee Miller is having a great summer too.
Every summer.
So we are preparing for our Juneteenth celebration next year, which will be our 5th year anniversary of celebrating Juneteenth in the Village of Broadview. It will still remain a 3-day event. The dates will be June 20th through June 22nd, so mark your calendar for Juneteenth 2025. Move with the Mayor is a health initiative aimed at promoting physical activity and community engagement. We walk every Saturday at 9 a.m., exploring different areas of town. So to stay updated on our meeting locations, be sure to listen to our robocalls or through an email blast. My primary goal for this initiatives are to improve public health, foster community spirit, and highlight the importance of a healthy, active lifestyle. I extend my gratitude to Trustee Abraham for joining us on these walks. Thank you. As we continue to promote physical fitness, we will soon transition to biking in preparation for Tour de Proviso. So Tour de Proviso, we're going into our 5th year, is going to be held in the Village of Bellwood, and it's a friendly competition of who can get the most bikers at the event. Join us as we gear up for the excitement of the event and continue the journey towards a healthier and more connected community. Several discussions have arisen concerning property taxes. This has been a pressing issue for many residents in our community. To address these concerns, we hosted a town hall meeting specifically focused on property taxes. I'm grateful for our local school districts and our Cook County Board of Review, Commissioner Larry R. Rogers Jr., who provided some valuable insights and support during the event. Moving forward, I will be collaborating closely with residents to examine property tax statutes thoroughly, and so that's the policy. And so in housing, it's a lot of systemic racism that takes place in housing, but we gotta unpeel the laws to get to a solution. Our goal is to develop a well-informed recommendation that we can present to our leaders for consideration. Achieving meaningful reform in our property tax system requires a collective effort. Band-Aid fixes are no longer sufficient for addressing the challenges we face in Broadview and across the Proviso Township. By working together and advocating for comprehensive reform, we can strive for a more equitable and sustainable property tax system that benefits all members of our community. So it's been on our radar. The mayors, we are working extremely hard with our county officials and our state officials, but to be intentional about the work, we have to look at the policy. And so I had 7 residents that said that they would be engaged to help me do that. So I got a small, and if any trustee want to join, I know the clerk said he would help out as well for the property tax, but it's going to be pulling out that statute and seeing what that work really looked like. So the folks over at IML, which I am on the legislative committee, they have dedicated some time to start peeling back some things to get us some things that's taking place in the statute for us to look at and how we look at it and revise it and make recommendations to the state legislators who make the final decisions. The Village of Broadview participated in Active People Healthy Illinois Walkability Virtual Academy. It was 10 weeks, and it was mandatory, and it was a lot to enhance walkability and movability within our community. As a part of this initiative, we've been actively engaging in Move with the Mayor walks, not only within the community, but also with the students at Lindop School. We're building leaders in the Village of Broadview. On Thursday, August 15th, we will step into the new school year by walking with the students to school, crossing over 17th Avenue and 15th Street, where there is no adequate signage or a crosswalk at that area where those children that live on that part of town will cross over to go to Lindop. We will meet at the corner of 15th Avenue and 15th Street. I'm calling on all trustees, the clerk, village leadership, and residents to join us in this event. Your participation and support are crucial as we advocate for safe crosswalks for students at Lindop School and work together to promote a safer, more walkable community in the Village of Broadview. The 8th graders that was in the Broadview Freedom School, they are taking the initiative to do crosswalks. So we did a crosswalk initiative, and they gave some ideas and some input, and so they're going to be calling on our state officials to hold IDOT accountable to make sure that they can cross the street together. So I'm asking all of the residents and you all on the board to show up on August 15th at 8 o'clock to walk the kids across the street, and I will be inviting the Speaker of the House, Leader Lyford, and our Cook County Commissioners to participate as well. Senior bingo was a lot of fun, and everyone was happy with food and, of course, bingo. The prizes was amazing, and they just took over. They had a lot of fun. Thank you to trustee Shelby for calling bingo. She represented both as a senior for herself and as a dedicated trustee along with Clerk McGreer. As we move forward, there are many conversations about senior activities and how we can enhance aging in the Village of Broadview. My office will collaborate with the Broadview Park District to develop senior programming. If you're interested in contributing your input or ideas for senior activities, please call Lily at 708-681-3600, extension 259. The Village of Broadview considers a senior to be anyone age 55 and above. Let's enjoy aging in our community together. Lastly, during the recent storms in mid-July, residents were displaced. My office has collaborated with the American Red Cross to provide immediate shelter for those affected. Under the leadership of Commissioner Upshaw, the building department is currently investigating the conditions of all affected units. Inspections have taken place, and we anticipate that the landlords will comply with all village, county, and state codes regarding public health and environmental safety. Our goal is to ensure that the units are safe for tenants to move back into them as soon as possible. I had one of the residents come with her small child, I believe she was 6 years old, a severe asthmatic child. And the conditions of the building that they were living in, I just gotta say, it just pissed me off that landlords will collect money and treat tenants the way that these tenants have been treated. It's an embarrassment to the Village of Broadview, but we are holding them accountable to make sure that all of those units are brought up to code, and that they are environmentally safe for anybody to reside in there. It was seniors living in there, children, and just for them to just say that it was okay for them to be back in those units was just unbelievable. It was just unbelievable. So the building department is working on that, doing their investigative report, and will submit some reports to me hopefully by the end of this week or early next week. I am calling a special board meeting on Tuesday, July 13th at 1 o'clock for the two lowest bidder projects for the Public Works Department. One for the Public Works facilities, which is the garage doors, and 217th Avenue Water Main Sidewalk Project. I'm sure there's more to say, but I'm going to say thank you for your continuous support of us in the Village of Broadview, and we'll see you at National Night Out tomorrow at 5 p.m. Now for me to address the public comments. So the first speaker, Princess Dempsey, well, if she would have stayed, she would have heard some of her grievances in her comments, so she could just watch the video. To Ms. Smith, the parking on Roosevelt, impact on businesses. So we had several community meetings, and I don't know, and welcome back to Broadview. I don't know if you live in here or you got a shop here or a business owner, small business owner, but we had several community meetings with the businesses regarding parking because we knew that it would be an impact to those that's either working or to their customers. And we did a survey, and we asked each property owner or lead tenant or landlord to give us a schedule, like your operating of hours, how many employees you have, so that we can have consideration for that. I don't know how many we got responded back, but it was very few. And so we understand your concerns, but we also know that on the Roosevelt corridor, that's a transactional corridor where people are coming to purchase and leave and go. It's not for a long period of time. So we do have consideration for those that have tenants, but we need the data so that we can implement and tell the tenants where they need to go park. So it's not that we ignoring you or we don't have consideration for lifestyles and stuff like that, but now that the residents asked for us to develop the commercial district, and now that we're developing the commercial district, parking is an issue. And so it is gonna be, and we're gonna enforce the parking. And so we got municipal lots that have paid parking lots. We put that program in place. Right in front of certain parts, you cannot park more than 15 minutes because it's transactional. It's not permanent parking. So any hair salons or the suites that have customers that come get lashes or whatever they do over their hair, massages, it's not for that. They can go to the municipal lot and park because it's transactional. Now, as it relates to the crosswalk on 18th and Roosevelt Road, that was part of our study with the students, with the crosswalks. And we know in this walkability study that we just got out of, we know that that's problematic. But we have state officials that was on the call that saw the pictures that we had taken in the community when we were doing the walks with the signage. It's a sign there to say cross, but it's no crosswalk. So we are aware of that, but The bad news is we don't own Roosevelt Road, it's IDOT. So it's how we tell the story. So we are in position to tell our story, how it impacts the safety of pedestrian crossing like major intersections like Roosevelt, especially during high traffic time. And the inconvenience that you would have to go from 18th all the way down to 17th to the light. So we are aware of that. So I appreciate your public comment and welcome back. Okay. As it relates to the Cook County Forest Preserve, the residents that was here, I'm glad that they showed up. I encouraged them to come show up and make public comment because we need to tell our story. You know, you've been in your home over there in that area over 50 years, and then all of a sudden now you got this where they want to put the easement in place and make it a Cook County Forest Preserve, and how government work, because if they own it, they don't feel like they should have to give us courtesy. But I don't agree with that. You know, it's just give us consideration or at least hear what we have to say. So I am very happy that Commissioner Aguilar, when I called him, he jumped right on it. He just couldn't be at the meeting tonight because he's traveling. But as we go through this process, I'll be working with Joel on what the solutions would be, because I don't like going advocating and fighting for a cause and I don't have an outcome. So we'll put an outcome in place so that we can present to them so that it's professional, it's articulated, and we're looking at the laws and the consideration for the residents. So we'll do our due diligence, and we may have to get legal involved in this to help us with this cost. But just like the Forest Preserve is very territorial, I'm very territorial of the people that live in Broadview. And with that being said, I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Been properly motioned by trustee Shelby, seconded by trustee Chalmalabi to adjourn this evening's meeting. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Hearing no opposition, we are hereby adjourned at 9:02 p.m.
Our next regular board meeting is September 16th.
Thank you, Mayor.